Hello students, welcome to Learner's Planet. Let us continue with the chapter Control and Coordination. Now in this chapter, in the previous sessions we had studied that the process, how it is taking place in the animals. Over there, it is actually under the control of two different systems. That is your nervous system and the endocrine system. The nervous system is helping in responding to a particular thing by generating an electrical impulse. And these electrical impulses, they are actually produced, it is generated by the neurons. So these neurons or the nerve cells, they are the functional unit of a nervous system. And we studied that how these cells, they are receiving the message from the receptors and then transmitting it to the brain, and then it is processed over there. Then the command is further transmitted to the another target tissue. So that was performed by the nervous system. Besides this, another control system is what? The hormonal system. The different secretions are different material or substances are secreted by the glands, which are helping in such control and coordination processes, which supports our growth, which supports the regulation of normal processes, the normal functioning of the body. Now in the case of plants, the complexity is very much different. Animals are more complex as compared to the plants. And this is the reason that why the plants, they do not show any development of the nervous system. In the case of plants, the control coordination, of course, it takes place. This particular feature, that is the response given to any stimulus. It is a specific feature of a living organism. So plants, being a living organism, they should respond to any change that is taking place in its surrounding. But in the case of plants, how is it taking place? As we had already said, there is no nervous system for this function. So here it is under the control of the hormones. And it is these hormones which are actually helping a plant to respond to various changes and then respond or then develop as a normal living organism. So in today's session, we are actually going to study about this control and coordination in the plants. See, plants, of course, we call them as a living organism, and the reason behind is that what? Because these plants are able to sense the presence of various stimulus. As the animals, they have a capacity, they are having different sense organs for this particular purpose. Whatever physical or surrounding stimulus is there in the over there, which is in the form of some temperature or the touch or the taste. For different things, the different type of sensors or the receptors were present in the different parts of the bodies. Now in the case of plants, the system is very much different from those of animals, isn't it? So how the process is taking place now? As we had already said that there is no specific nervous system for the control and coordination process in the plants. Then how is it possible? They are able to sense the things in the surrounding and then they are able to respond to them also, isn't it? So basically in this case, the sense is actually they are having the stimulus could be sensed by different parts of the body, which is of course very much unlike to the it is very much different from those of the animals. In this case, the stimulus could be something like light, gravity, chemicals, water, touch, or etc. So these particular things, they are the certain stimulus, they are exposed directly and throughout. There is no specific region where it has to be actually recognized. So the location of sense organ is not so easy to determine, isn't it? So for example, let us say the light. The entire plant is present outside on the ground, isn't it? And it is evenly exposed to the light. The sunlight is not, it is that it is coming from a particular direction. Of course, intensity can change due to the presence of various barriers or something, or the wall or whatever. But overall, if you look at the situation, the whole of the thing is exposed to the stimulus. Gravity, isn't it? A force of attraction by the earth. So there is no region which is not exposed to the gravity. Entire plant is exposed to it. So here they have to respond to them in a different manner. So in this case, these responses are actually they are under the control of various specific chemicals known as the hormones. So in this case, nervous system, of course it is not present, but the coordination is taking place, and it is under the control of the chemical messengers secreted in the different parts of the plants, and those are known as the hormones. As these hormones are present in the plants, so they are known as the phytohormones. So it is these phytohormones which are helping in the process of coordination. They are supporting the growth of the plant. See, you can see that light or water, each thing is required for the growth of a plant. It is supporting the process of photosynthesis, isn't it? And this photosynthesis is providing what? The food material. This food material is required for what? It provides the various raw materials, it is providing the energy, it is stored and is serving as the food for the other organisms also. So overall, these processes, they are actually responding in very different manner as compared to the animals. Generally, these particular responses which are given by the plants, they are actually shown in the form of the movements. Now these movements are usually observed directly. It may be a slow process, but definitely it is taking place. Now these movements, they can take place in the form of the growth, or they can be independent of a growth also. Now as this growth is taking place, you know what is happening? There is an increase in the size of the plant, and that is clearly observed. Now it is not a function, or it is not a process which is taking in few minutes or the seconds or the hours. It is a slow process and is observed accordingly with time. So these processes, as they do not include the nervous system here, and it is only through the phytohormones, so it is quite a slow process, but of course it is having a great potential. It is taking place steadily. So therefore we can see the response with time, not immediately. Now there are certain plants, there are certain responses that we can actually observe immediately also. For example, mimosa plant, Mimosa pudica. So over there what is happening? Or it is commonly known as what? Touch me not. You must be very much familiar with this term now, isn't it? This touch me not plant, it is sensitive to touch. As you touch it, you can see that these leaves, or the part which you had touched, from there the drooping of leaves will take place and will extend up to a particular site. So this is not actually involving the growth and is observed immediately. So this is one of the example that we can actually use to clarify that how the movement is taking place. It is an example that of course these movements are taking place in the plants also. It is quite easy to observe in an animal, but here in the plants, as it shows its effect in after a long time, so some of the examples can help us to understand it in a very clear manner. Now if we are assuming these two particular terms, or we are using this growth dependent and growth independent words here, then what we can conclude? The conclusion after this is that these plants, some of them are associated with the growth and some are actually independent of the growth. And depending upon this particular property, the type of movement is going to be different. Whatever is the stimulus, if it is making a plan to it is stimulating a plan to respond in association with the growth, then it is coming under one category, or else it is falling into the another category. So now let us find out that what these movements, how many different type of movements are there which are helping a plant in giving a response to a particular stimulus. Because of course giving a response is definitely a very essential characteristic of a living organism. So let us just clarify these particular movements. The plant movement, it is of two types. That is, it may be directional or it may be non-directional. That means directional means it is showing its own movement towards or away from the site of the stimulus. That means a stimulus is coming from one side, then which part or which side the movement is taking place, whether it is towards the stimulus or it is away from it. So depending upon this, these particular movements which are showing this phenomena or this characteristic, that is towards or away from the side from where the stimulus is present, that would be known, and that type of movement would be known as the tropism. The movements are tropic movements, or we can call it as a tropism. So this tropism is shown by the plants in a directional way. Now those particular movements which has no link with the direction, that means from wherever this stimulus is actually coming, the plant is giving a response in a uniform way. It is not like towards the side of stimulus or away from it. So such type of movements are non-directional, and scientifically such is known as the nastic movement, or it is known as nastism. Now these tropic movements or the tropism, it is always growth dependent. That means if it is growth dependent, then how it is going to function here? It is function by showing a change in the size or height of the plant. Now what do you think? How this height is increased? Is it a matter or a job of few minutes or few hours? No, it will take time. It will begin initially and is taking place for a period of time, and is taking place in a very slow and potential manner. But of course after a particular time period, we are able to mark this change in the height or the size of the plant. Now this growth, as we say, it is an increase in the size. That means what? The cell division must be taking place, right? So if the cell division or this growth is taking place, what do you think? How is it taking place? It is under the control of the hormones. So these hormones are secreted in response to a stimulus. Stimulus that will stimulate a group of cells in the plant which are activated, and they will start secreting the hormone. And then these hormones will reach the target site, and over there they will initiate they will increase the rate of cell division. As a result, we can see the increase in the length of the plant. Now further, this length which is increasing now it can take place, it can bend towards the direction from where stimulus is coming, or it can be away from the direction of the stimulus. Now if it is this length is increasing towards the stimulus, then it would be known as the positive tropism, and if the direction is away from the stimulus, it is known as the negative tropism. Now this is how these directional movements are taking place, and they are under the control of the hormones, and therefore they are always associated with the growth type processes. On the other side, these non-directional movements, they do not have any link with the direction from where the stimulus is coming. So such are known as the nastic movements, and they are generally growth independent. The growth may occur, it may not occur, Both possibilities are there, but definitely if it has nothing to do with the direction of the stimulus. Once the stimulus is generated or it is present, the response would be given in the form of the movement, as we had seen in the example of Mimosa pudica. When you touch the plant, the entire plant is going to be affected. Now that of course depend on the time or the range of that time for how much the touch was placed over there, because as the touch is removed, as the stimulus is removed, it will revert back to the normal position. So in this case there is no change in the size. What you can observe, size is obviously it is shown over there, but in the like the leaves are shrinking, isn't it? But as this stimulus is removed, the shape is normal. That means it will retain its own original shape. So one more thing now you can compare here. These tropic movements, they are actually permanent. Once the length of a plant has grown, whatever length has been achieved, it is not going to revert back, isn't it? Whereas in the case of nastic movements, the reverse can happen. So these are the basic comparisons of different type of movements or the responses which are shown by the plants in response to a particular stimulus. Now further we are going to study about each and every type of movement in detail. So now let us begin with tropism, or it could be known as tropic movements or the directional movements. Now these directional movements, why we are calling them as directional movement? It should be very clear now, because they are going to move either towards the direction from where the stimulus is coming, or to the opposite direction. So this is why we are calling them as the directional movement. Now these type of tropic movements or the directional movement, they are even known as the growth movement, as the movement occurs because of the growth of a particular plant part. So this part of plant which is growing here, it is actually a response which is given to an external stimulus. Now of course this external stimulus, it can come from a particular side, and the direction to which particular response is generated, that type of response is known as the tropism. So what is tropism? It is a growth movement of a part of a plant in response to an external stimulus, in which the direction of stimulus will determine the direction of the response. Now in such a particular sentence, can you observe something very interesting? In this case we are all continuously saying that it is a sort of growth movement. And of course growth is always under the control of some hormones. So basically this particular stimulus, they are actually affecting the function of the hormones inside the plant, and as these hormones are affected, the growth is taking place. Now as further we are saying that growth is taking place either towards the direction of stimulus, or towards or the away from the stimulus. Now how it is possible? Growth is always increase in a particular size or length or whatever, isn't it? And is of course influenced by the hormones. So the stimulus is actually making these particular hormones to move or diffuse in a particular direction. That means suppose from one side stimulus is coming, and from that, if it is sensitive, then what will happen? Those hormones, if they are sensitive, they tend to move away from the site of its stimulus, right? And wherever they will reach, that part would be supported. That part will start growing at a faster rate, and this is how the direction of a particular movement or the response would be determined. So now further, if the growth or this movement of a particular part of a plant is towards the stimulus, then it is known as a positive tropism. And this is very easy to understand. If suppose the growth or this movement is away from the stimulus, then of course it would be known as a negative tropism. Suppose a plant is standing erect, right? And if you are then closing it inside a dark chamber which is having a hole in a particular wall, right? Now it is only this particular hole from where the light can enter inside. So what do you observe as a result of this experiment? The light is coming from one direction, and the plant, the stem which is growing here, it bends towards the direction of light. That means what? It is a positive tropism. So this is how we are just classifying. We can observe the direction by just conducting such small experiments. Now these tropism, as they are taking place against certain stimulus, then definitely there must be some different kind of stimulus also, isn't it? Fine, the response is in the form of a movement, but it is due to certain stimulus. So what possible stimuli are there which is actually affecting such type of movements in the plants? Let us find it out, and on that basis these tropic movements are classified furthermore. So now just have a look over that. So here stimulus, it could be like light, gravity, some chemicals, or the water, or even the touch. These are various type of stimulus, the common stimulus which a plant is facing daily, minute by minute, day by day, and so on. So these particular stimulus which are actually generated towards the light, the responses given towards the light is known as a phototropism. Now if the direction of movement is towards the light, it would be known as the positive phototropism. If the direction of movement is away from the direction of light, then it is known as the negative phototropism. Then comes gravity. What is gravity? It is the force of attraction of the earth, isn't it? So this gravity is also helping, or it is also affecting the growth of a plant. Now if the growth is towards the gravity, that means downward, then it is known as the positive geotropism, and if it is away from the gravity or away from the earth, then it is known as negative geotropism. Can you think of some practical example? You know, always growth, the roots are always growing downwards, where the stem is always growing upside. So what does it mean? Can you now make out some sense out of it? The point is, the growth is actually affected by the gravity. So these gravity, they are having positive effect on the growth of the root, and is showing the negative effect on the stem part. So a stem is said to be a negatively geotropic organ of the plant, and roots are showing the positive geotropism. Then yeah, chemical. It is another substance or another sort of stimulus which is having different effect on the plants. So these effects, like there could be some chemotropism. The effect or the movement is known as chemotropism, and if the process is taking place or the movement is taking place towards this chemical, then it is known as a positive chemotropism, and if it is away, it would be known as negative chemotropism. Can you think of some example? Pollination. What happens in pollination? A pollen grain is attached over the stigma, right? And then a pollen tube is generated, or it is produced. So this elongation of this pollen pollen tube is an example of positive positive chemotropism. Then water. The movement would be hydrotropism, and similarly, like all other, it can also be positive or negative. Then touch is another stimulus which is known as thigmotropism. If it is towards the touch, the movement is towards the touch, it is positive. If it is away, then it is a negative type. So now you can see that there are different type of stimulus which are affecting the growth of the plant, and the different parts of the plants are responding in a different manner towards that particular stimulus. So further in the next session we will continue we will discuss each and every type of these tropism, and then we are going to clarify the doubts or these processes or the movements which are shown by the plants. So thank you so much. Have a nice day. We'll continue in the next session. Goodbye.